Welcome to Field Notes by me, Zofia Reich, and the title of today's note is Chamonix. Sitting in my friend's flat in Geneva, with a panoramic view of the city's lights and the dark expanse of the lake, it feels surreal that only a couple of hours ago we were in the Alps. Skiing down the empty slopes of Les Ouches, with Aiguille du Midi to our left and Mont Blanc, its very peak shrouded in clouds, to our right, brought back so many memories. Some from my childhood and some not even mine but imagined. The stories of travelers who visited the region as early as the 18th century, recreated in my head and written down ad infinitum by others, and by now also by me, in Born to Climb. I also have some strange feelings associated with the Chamonix area because of the time I spent there working for an outdoor brand. It was both a really great and a really dull period, meeting friends, losing friends, learning that being among the mountains doesn't always mean you can actually access them. Witnessing firsthand the extent of economic privilege that is necessary for anybody who wants to enjoy themselves in Chamonix was quite the eye-opener. Even the pioneering gentlemen, Pocock and Windham, or perhaps especially them, were little else than elite tourists, although their 1741 expedition to Chamonix had ostensibly scientific pretenses. On a different note, it blows my mind that today we made the distance from Geneva to Chamonix in just over an hour, while for Pocock and Windham it was 3 days of strenuous travel. These days, comfortable ski lifts and fancy hotels are much more affordable than the extravagant endeavors of the early explorers, but affordable they are certainly not. What percentage of the world's population can afford a skiing holiday? When you're in the Alps, it kind of feels like a lot. The slopes are often busy, hotel bars and restaurants full to the brim, car parks overflowing. There is always a very clear distinction between those who work at the resorts and those who holiday there. Somehow, I feel a closer affinity to the waiters, lift operators and skiing instructors than I do to the minted tourists. I guess it might have to do with the fact that for the briefest of times, some 15 or more years ago, I was a ski instructor myself. A thing that I keep saying these days is that one of the best things about aging is collecting enough experiences to seemingly fill more than one lifetime. Was it really me teaching people how to snowplow turn? Working the slopes has always been the cheapest way to access the mountains. The same is true for many outdoor sports, like surfing, climbing or diving, with kids qualified to combine work with their passion. But even that requires an enormous amount of resources to start with. Gear is expensive, courses aren't exactly free, and there's the cultural capital necessary to even contemplate going to ski in the first place, let alone become an instructor. While in a way I had all of that, it also feels like there's a very big difference between my skiing history and that of an average Western European. In fact, I am very glad of it, as it allows me, or at least I hope it does, both more appreciation and also more criticism of skiing industry and culture. My mum first took me to the slopes the same year that the Berlin Wall fell. In Styrk, southern Poland, the main village was still lined by a few ancient log cabins made of trees thicker than my waist. I distinctly remember their windowless facades half sunken into the ground, and I remember the skiing, unmaintained slopes, perpetually broken drag lifts, and the inevitable spring thaw which announced the end of the season. I remember dogs chained in front of every house and my mother always trying to improve their well-being. And then there were the stories she told me from another 15 years earlier, where nobody had even expected the one cable car to work and where her friends had amused themselves with horse-drawn sleigh races. Then came the time when we were able to get passports, and the Slovakian post-communist resorts became a possibility. Still, the tour guide would collect our documents before crossing the border and only return them upon re-entering Poland. I remember one hotel with an Olympic swimming pool, but to get to it you had to either walk through the male changing rooms or outside. Outside was so cold that we used to freeze our swimming suits into amazing shapes by swinging them around on the 1-minute walk. I also loved unrolling a wet toilet roll from the window of our room, but you had to be quick before the whole thing froze. If you were lucky, you could get the stiff paper to go down 5 stories. And then, before I became too adult for my parents to still occasionally fund my holidays, I was lucky enough to go to Austria. We packed our car full of food because groceries in the West were way out of the budget, especially given the cost of the apartment rental, which was way beyond what an average Polish family had to live on for a month. Back then, I was not able to comprehend the cost of the ski passes and the gear we had. These are extravagantly expensive today, when Poland is a part of the EU, Warsaw a true metropolis, and I have been earning in sterling and euros for over a decade. 2 decades ago, accessing all that was a luxury, even though every penny had to be counted. But today, I was kind of a regular tourist in Les Hauts, skiing with the view of Mont Blanc. Sure, the cost of the ski pass and the gear rental stung a little, as did the €5 glass of Coke, but it is something I hope can become a regular part of my life. Perhaps swapping the lifts for touring skis, and only if in a few years there's still any snow left. Which makes me wonder if all of the unsustainable, excessive habits of humanity feel entirely justifiable when they become a possibility. It's all very well condemning somebody for flying a private jet, but ski lifts and snow cannons are not exactly the gold standard of sustainability. Is it an economy of scale, or simply hypocrisy? With all these questions, feelings and memories rattling in my head, I will now go to bed. I'm tired and happy, and God, how I love the snow. Thank you for listening to Field Notes by me, Zofia Reich. That's all for this week, and you can check out more on my website, borntoclimb.net, or on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Zofia Reich.